I love it,
Back
man.
on topic.
I
What do
love
you
it.
guys need to get started? Dave, you were doing great.
Yeah, so
Um,
credit, I think, it matters, guys. And if you don't have great credit, that's okay. But start working on it. Try to find somebody to help you fix it or repair it, or just make it an effort to know that it matters. I mean, it's that simple. So, like, make sure you're not late on your bills and that you pay them on time and you're not racking up a bunch of consumer debt. You know, if you can avoid those things, and I know this is challenging. I've had credit card debt multiple times. Sometimes I've had multiple six figures of credit card debt in the past. I'm not proud of it, right? But I don't have any to this day. I have zero actually as of this moment, which is amazing because I know at this point that that matters and it's important. And if I want to get into more bigger debt versus just go get 30 grand on my credit card, I can go get $300,000 worth of debt that's real, that's good debt versus the bad debt, right? So it does matter. Number two, start making offers, guys. If you don't have the ability to make an offer, then you're not doing something right. So let's just break this second thing down for a second. In order to make an offer, you have to have somebody that's willing to sell, right? Which means you're either going to have to be going around with an agent looking at properties that are listed, or you're going to be calling people that are off market trying to sell themselves, or maybe they're even rental properties that are listed for rent that you're calling on asking if they're interested in selling these properties, right? So there's a couple different ways to go about doing it. But in order to make the offer, you got to be on the phone with somebody typically, and that may also mean that you have to go view the property. So if you're not out viewing properties, you don't have the opportunity typically to make offers, right? So let's reverse engineer that, right? That's what we basically just did. So you got to get out. You got to start looking. You got to figure out what your buy box is, guys. And if you don't know what that is, listen to the last episode that we just recorded. Prior to this one, we talk a bunch about the buy box. So you want to figure out what those things are. Also, it's a good idea, I'd say number three, which goes a little bit beyond the credit, but have your financing in line, right? So the better your credit is, the easier this third step will be. But this third step is have a plan to fund. It's really that simple. So are you going to use a hard money lender to buy something and fix it up and rent it out and then refinance it, which is called the Burr method? Mike and I love doing that. A hard money lender or a private money lender. Well, that's great that you have the plan, but do you have the lender lined up? Have you been pre-approved? Or maybe you're using a bank. Have you walked into the bank? I get this all the time. People send me Instagram messages 3 times a week. Hey, Dave, how do I get a bank loan? And I'm like, have you went into a bank and like talked to a banker? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, that's probably where you should start if you want that bank to lend you money. It's kind of simple,
mhm.
but people don't do it, right? So get that financing in order. I think that that really, really matters. What else, Mike?
So I think that this is an important one, and it's super easy to do well, and it's super easy to mess it up. But it's have a plan. So I know it kind of sounds silly, but I always like to, and I know Dave and I like to do this because we do. We come up with a 3 year plan, we come up with a 1 year plan, and then we kind of come up with our monthly plan or our 3 month plan rather.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not always right. Like we're not even close sometimes to what we think we can accomplish in 1 year or 3 years or 1 month or 3 months. Like we're way off, and that's okay. So it's really easy to mess it up. Doesn't matter. But have a goal, have a plan, and start working towards it. I think that's the most important thing. If you are under ambitious and you say, I just want to buy one property a year for 5 years and then I'll have 5 rentals, that can change your life. Just having 5 rentals, that can probably retire your wife or replace maybe your income if you're working at a quick trip or working in an unskilled field. I mean,
Yeah, or
something
you're
like
a
that can
government
be
employee. Millions of people work for the government, right?
right. That is it's a huge amount of money. If you buy 5 rental properties and then 5 years later, I mean, you've got some cash flow. You've got $1,000, $2,000 a month possibly coming in. Like that's life changing. That can be a huge deal for a
Yeah,
lot of
and over
people.
10 years, maybe you can acquire two, three, $400,000 worth of wealth, right? Here's the
Exactly.
one of the coolest things about real estate. Where's my piggy bank? Let me grab this real quick. So
Yeah.
if you are watching, you can see the piggy bank. If you are listening, I'm holding up a big, ugly, gaudy, pink piggy bank. That's literally a pig with white polka dots. And there's money in here, right? And here's what I love about this analogy, Mike. I'm terrible at saving money. I've never really been that good at saving money. But when you buy a piece of rental property, right, and you get it rented, somebody else is paying that loan down. And in some of my property, like some of the very first property that I've ever bought, I never even took the cash flow. So I would just put extra money every month towards what was owed, which helps accelerate paying that property down. And then before you know it, you have a property that you've owned for 10 or 15 years, and you have $100 or $200 or $300,000 worth of equity, meaning you've paid the debt down and hopefully the value's gone up, and you basically forced savings. This is literally one of my favorite things with real estate. All these other things that I mentioned is icing on the cake to this one principle, in my opinion. If you have 10 properties and you go and you keep them rented and you pay them every month, after 10 years, if each property gains, $100,000 in value, that's $1 million that you now have access to. You have the equity. And trying to save $1 million month by month for 10 years, do you know anybody that's done that?
Nope.
Me neither.
Yeah. So
Unless
again,
they're really good at investing and they get lucky, right? Or they are super high earners and they can do it in 2 or 3 years. But like your typical person, Mike, that you had mentioned earlier that like may work at Quick Trip, for example, or whatever, there is no shot that you're going to save $1 million. Probably not in 10 years, probably in your lifetime. But you can easily do it. I'm saying easily do it with rental real estate.